Marcus stood frozen in the church doorway, his hands trembling as he gripped the ivory envelope. The string quartet played softly inside, and through the stained glass windows, he could see his college roommate waiting at the altar. He'd promised Derek he'd be there, but walking in alone felt like carrying a weight he couldn't name. 3 years had passed since Sarah's accident, yet moments like these still hollowed him out. He took a breath, straightened his tie, and stepped forward, until a voice cut through the music like a lifeline he didn't know he needed. "Marcus, look at me." He turned to find Eleanor, his 72-year-old neighbor, hurrying up the church steps in a powder blue dress and sensible heels, waving her clutch purse like a flag. Eleanor, who watered his plants when he worked late shifts at the hospital. Eleanor, who brought soup when his daughter Lily caught colds. Eleanor, who somehow always knew when the world felt too heavy. "Eleanor, what are you? Did you really think," she said, slightly breathless as she reached him, "that I'd let you do this alone?" Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. "How did you even know about? Lily told me last week." Sweet child was worried about her daddy going to a wedding by himself. Eleanor linked her arm through his with the matter-of-fact warmth that had defined their friendship since he'd moved in next door. "Now, let's go celebrate love, shall we? I haven't been to a proper wedding in years." As they walked down the aisle together, Marcus noticed several guests smiling at them, an older woman and a younger man, arm in arm. They probably assumed Eleanor was his mother or favorite aunt. He didn't correct them. The truth was simpler and more profound. She was someone who saw him. The ceremony was beautiful. Derek and his bride, Rachel, exchanged vows that spoke of partnership and resilience. Marcus felt the familiar ache, the ghost of what he'd lost, but Eleanor's presence beside him softened it somehow. She dabbed her eyes during the readings, whispered, "Gorgeous," when the bride appeared, and squeezed his hand when the couple kissed. At the reception, Eleanor became the unexpected star. She told stories that made the guests at their table roar with laughter, danced with Derek's grandfather, and somehow convinced Marcus to join her for a slow song. "You're a good man, Marcus," she said as they swayed to an old Sinatra tune. "Sarah would be proud of the father you've become." He blinked hard. "Some days I'm not sure I'm enough for Lily." "Enough?" Eleanor pulled back to look at him squarely. "That girl has a father who works double shifts to keep her in art classes. Who braids her hair even though you're terrible at it. Who reads to her every single night, no matter how exhausted you are. You're not just enough, you're everything she needs." "You see too much," Marcus said with a watery laugh. "I see what's true." Eleanor patted his shoulder. "And I see a man who deserves to let himself enjoy life again, even in small moments." The evening unfolded with an ease Marcus hadn't felt in years. He found himself laughing genuinely, sharing memories of Derek's notoriously bad cooking in college, toasting the newlyweds with champagne that bubbled on his tongue like possibility. Eleanor charmed everyone, but she kept returning to him, as if her mission was singular, to ensure he wasn't alone. During dessert, Rachel approached their table. "Marcus, I'm so glad you came. And who is this lovely woman?" "This is Eleanor, my neighbor and apparently my guardian angel." Rachel's eyes went bright. "Derek mentioned you've been through a difficult time. It's wonderful that you have someone like Eleanor in your corner." After Rachel moved on to greet other guests, Eleanor leaned close. "You know what I think? I think the universe puts people in our path exactly when we need them. You and Lily moved in next door right when I was feeling rather purposeless. My Herbert had passed, my children live across the country, and my days felt long. Then suddenly, there was this little girl who loved my garden and this kind man who always asked how I was feeling." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He'd been so wrapped up in his own grief, he'd never considered what their friendship meant to Eleanor. "I didn't know you felt that way. We save each other, dear. That's how it works." As the reception wound down, Derek pulled Marcus aside. "Man, I can't tell you how good it is to see you here. And to see you smiling." He glanced at Eleanor, who was getting her coat. "She's special. She really is. She just showed up, Derek. I was standing outside, trying to convince myself to come in alone, and there she was." Derek clapped his shoulder. "The best people in our lives often show up exactly when we need them to." In the parking lot, Marcus walked Eleanor to her car, a sensible sedan she'd driven for 15 years. The night air was cool, and stars scattered across the sky like thrown diamonds. Thank you, Marcus said. I don't think I can fully express what today meant to me. Eleanor unlocked her car but didn't get in. Instead, she turned to face him fully. Marcus, I want to tell you something, and I need you to really hear it. Life dealt you an unimaginable loss. You have every right to your grief, and you'll carry Sarah with you always. But you also have every right to joy, to friendship, to new beginnings. You don't have to choose between honoring her memory and living your life. You can do both. The words landed in a place Marcus had kept locked. He'd been so focused on being strong for Lily, on maintaining routines and stability, that he'd forgotten he was allowed to want things for himself. How do I start? He whispered. You already have. You came today. You let me walk with you. You danced and laughed and let yourself be part of celebration. She smiled. Tomorrow, you do it again in some small way. And then the next day. Little by little, you remember that you're still here, and being here is a gift. Marcus hugged her then, properly, the way you hug someone who has just handed you permission to breathe. I'm glad you're my neighbor. I'm glad you're mine. Eleanor patted his back. Now, let's both go home. You have a little girl who'll want to hear all about the wedding, and I have a cat who's probably knocked over every plant in my living room by now. They drove home in their separate cars, but Marcus no longer felt alone. When he arrived at his house, he saw the lights on in Eleanor's window next door and felt grateful for proximity, for paying attention, for neighbors who become family. Inside, the babysitter reported that Lily had gone down easily. Marcus checked on his daughter, 8 years old, dark curls spread across her pillow, Sarah's face echoed in her features. He kissed her forehead. Daddy, she murmured sleepily. Did Miss Eleanor find you? She did, sweetheart. Good. I asked her to watch for you. I didn't want you to be lonely. Marcus smiled through tears. I wasn't lonely at all. Thank you, baby. As he got ready for bed, Marcus thought about Eleanor's words. Little by little, step by step, he'd spent 3 years just surviving. Maybe it was time to remember how to live, not because he was leaving Sarah behind, but because she would have wanted this for him. He looked out his bedroom window at Eleanor's house, where one light still glowed. Tomorrow, he'd bring her flowers from the farmer's market. He'd tell Lily about the wedding. He'd take Eleanor's advice and choose one small joy. Because that's what we do for each other. We show up. We look out. We remind one another that even in our darkest moments, we don't have to walk alone. And sometimes, the most profound act of love is simply showing up at a church doorway and saying, "Look at me. I'm here. You're not alone."